I tried to hide it on somebody that was running. It was a running scene. And we're trying to hide the mic.
Yeah, no.
And not being able to monitor it.
Can't trust it.
Biggest mistake ever.
Really?
Biggest mistake ever. Welcome to another episode of the iFilmmaker Podcast. My name is Ariel Martinez. Mr. Big Hairy Magic Mike.
So when is that going to go away? I don't know. So Mike Hernandez.
Hi, Mike Hernandez.
Hi, guys.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man.
Today, I thought we can talk about our setups as freelancers, right? So, oftentimes as freelancers, I would say maybe 80%, 75, 80% of our jobs is doing interviews a lot of the time. I just threw a number out there. I don't know if that's accurate. But I know we do a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of interviewing.
Yeah.
And as freelancers, as one-man band shooters, I'm slowly getting away from that, but I still remember, obviously, my method. There's always a way that I would analyze what I'm doing and sort of have my method of setting up my productions, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's putting up a camera, then setting up the audio, then the lighting, or swap that around, et cetera, et cetera. So I figured we can discuss that and how we analyze every single room that we walk into to see what we're going to start doing. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you get hired to do a shoot. Let's say you didn't do any tech scout. Okay. You're showing up
just walking in
for the first time.
Cool.
So I've done a lot of shoots at hotels, right? Mm-hmm. Where we do interviews. They always get a hotel room. You walk into the room. You have your gear with you. How are you looking at it?
So it depends on the crew as well. Do we have any crew, or are you just talking about just me?
Yourself.
Myself.
By yourself.
Okay. Got it. So I always want camera up. I want to see what I'm looking at. Of course, it's going to be not exposed right. It's going to be dark, whatever. I just like to see framing-wise.
Composition.
So, because I would hate to set up all these lights and go, yeah, composition here sucks. Let's go somewhere else. And then, no, move all that stuff. No, I'm over here. And I would hate that, because then that cuts into the time with the client. And then they start questioning your abilities. So I'd like to work out first, where are we planning on doing this? I look at the sun, I look at the light coming in from the window, and think about that fill light. I'm always looking for that fill light, and then work off of that. So if I can get natural fill light, that I don't have to put a light there, then I know that I need to, this is where my key light's going to be, here's where my hair light's going to be.
Really?
So my practice, and it could change per gig. So it's not always it's not one template all.
Sure.
But I like to have camera up, look at that. And from there, once I sit, like I'll have an assistant or someone, anybody, sit down in position, wherever that's going to be. And I go, okay, I like this composition. All right, cool. Let's start lighting this. So then I go light number 2. Audio for me is always last.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's just.
I actually always forget it, but we'll talk about that in a second.
But yeah, so audio is always last. So for me, it's camera, it's lights, and then it's audio. And so that's where I defined my lens choice, things like that. And then, once I know where my fill light is, depending on window and all, whatever there might be, I try to use as much natural light as possible and enhance that.
Sure.
So then I go lights and stands. When I have a crew and I have some people, I like to have a meeting with whatever size crew I have, and let's talk about what the gist of the whole thing is going to be, and kind of ready, set, go. Everyone go at the same time. I'll be focusing on camera, because that's what I'm working on. And if I'm brought on board to basically second camera or whatever to assist, I will make sure that all lights are on stands, all options, whatever that was discussed in that meeting. So that's what I like from my team as well. Sure. So if we talked about, we're going to have this light, this light, this light, this light, even though we have 3 other lights, I didn't mention them. Don't get them prepared. Get everything I mentioned prepared, put them on stands, and we can go from that and have them on standby. I like to have everything kind of just right there. So I'm always thinking, what's the quickest way and safest way we can do this, so that when client says go, we're already ready, we're good, we're lit, we're approved, we got monitor up. And so that's kind of camera, light, audio.
It's interesting that you look for the fill light, because you're always expecting to put a key light no matter what?
So I typically start, now this is subjective, obviously, and it can change, but I typically like to find out, like, what is the natural light I can work around. So if I can minimize the amount of lights I can have on a particular set or interview, that's always a plus. But I'd like to know. Now, if there's no light, great. I'll make it, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have a window light and with great lighting, you have to be careful because it changes.
Yep.
So you can't just commit to just that. But sometimes I'll even put a light, even like if it's like a what do you call it? Shears? Yeah, shears. I'll even put a light in there, LED, so it doesn't burn, just to support it. So it's at least some consistency there.
Sure.
But yeah, I like to know what I have available and work around that.
One thing I learned from full-time filmmaker Parker Wolbeck, what they practice, and this is why it's good to look at everybody else's practice, because you learn things from everywhere. I've learned things from people that I've done this longer than, so it's always good to always analyze people's work as opposed to criticizing all the time. But anyways, I learned that he puts his key light in the direction of where the natural light's coming in through, because like you said, it changes oftentimes. So what I like to do, I like to help that key light or natural light wrap around more on my subject. And I'm a big fan of one light and no fill. I'm a big fan of moody shadows.
Yeah, it's creative.
And most of the time I can get away with it, but sometimes the job doesn't call for that. Sometimes the job calls for fully wrapped, perfect lighting, depends on what you're shooting. But for the most part, I like that. And so I see where the natural light's coming, and that's where I put my key light. And I always try to match that color. That's why it's important to me that my key light be by color, so that I can always match the right temperature of what sunlight or natural light I have coming in. But like you said, when you walk into a room, you look at the vibe. First of all, background. What are we going to get back there? And what can we move? What's movable? Chairs, all that stuff. How much space, how much depth do we have? There have been times where we've had a beautiful background, but no depth, no space to work in. There's ample space, but the background, nothing's just working. Nothing's jiving there. So it's been tough.
I love when we have a ton of depth. Oh.
The space matters, and the more space, the better.
Whoa. One thing, please, everyone needs to do this. Before, when you walk into a set and you're looking at, or not set, wherever, location, take pictures before you move a thing. You will thank me when it's all over. Most prop masters or stylists, that's just the given, because they're responsible for putting everything back exactly the way it was. But when you're on your own, you're not used to that because you don't have a department who's handling that.
Yeah.
Always take a before picture of as many things as you can that you think is going to move, because I guarantee you when it's over, you're going to go, wait, what was that? What was that?
I'm very guilty of that. I hardly ever take pictures, ever. I just... at the end, I was like, I think that's how it was.
Yeah. That's a really good point of looking at your surroundings and what needs to be moved and whatnot.
Right. So again, it's more work. So the lazy, and this is a given, the lazier you are, the less nice, I guess, you'll have an image, right? Yes. So I have found when I put a lot more effort into my sets, meaning I have to move that couch, because moving that couch is going to make this shot better. And there have, in a most recent shoot, this is not a one-man band, but it was two of us. My beat cam op, he was another FX9 owner. It was at a beautiful house. And this is the shot where I had one of my favorite interviews. We were shooting a light through a window. That's the one that we were able to set up. But that one couch, it's a white couch in front of the beautiful wall of all of their accolades and all that stuff. We could just see the top of the couch. He wasn't sitting on a couch. We needed depth, so we put him on the middle of the room. But that couch is there, and we don't want to make it look. We want to make it look like it's a plain, nice, big wall. We had to move the couch. It was a mission. We had to do it in sections. This was a super high-end couch, super high-end place. They said that previously, that's where they normally do all their interviews when they have CBS coming over and news stations. Apparently, this is a famous person. But they never move the couch, and they always want to. And I'm like, I want to move that couch.
Yeah.
So, but man, it ended up being such an amazing shot. One of my favorite interviews of all time that I've ever shot myself. But if that couch would have been there, it would have been an eyesore. I know it, you know? So the more effort you put into your shoots, this is why it's good to have time to do stuff like this. Move what you can, you know, take that extra step, take that extra time, that effort, move stuff. You're going to love it at the end. If you need to move a bed, if you have the capabilities, obviously, if it's not bolted down, if you need to move a bed, move the bed. TV, whatever you have to do, think of your sets like a blank canvas. Anything could be moved around, you know, obviously with permission. You always ask permission to move things if you're at somebody's house. At a hotel, all bets are off. I spend time trying to see if I move kind of like a puzzle piece, kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, like these little things that everything's a prop, really. The couch, the lamp,
practicals. Yeah.
One thing I highly recommend, you could see if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the lamp here, aperture bulb. We'll link it down below.
Yeah.
Great to have in your kit because, man, you never know when you're going to be able to put that inside of a lamp socket that's just laying in the hotel, because oftentimes they work, but it's either on or off. And if it's on, it's overexposed and blown out.
Yeah.
It'd be beautiful if you could just dim it down and be able to use it. Or it's just the wrong color temperature. You wanted a different color temperature. Or you could just make it a different color.
So like, this is probably aging me right here. But on most sets, like what we would do is we'd get a dimmer and we would plug the lamp into a dimmer.
Yep.
That's how we controlled that. That's before all this stuff. Yeah. And then we would have gels, you know. We would have
and that's still a
CTB,
good practice to do it.
Yeah, CTB and CTO and different thicknesses. But yeah, it's so nice when it's just, you could just in an app and done.
The best thing about that is you could put any color. It's RGB, and then it's also whatever color temperature you want it to be.
It's getting too easy, man. We're getting lazy with all.
But you know what I love about this is that now we can really weed out those people that are really serious about this. And what I mean by that is, like, before, the excuse used to be everything was too expensive to have. So nobody could do this, to have a good quality camera, to have lights, audio. Now it's there for the taking. Now it's so simple. Here you go. Let's see what you create.
The excuses are slowly.
There are no excuses. Absolutely none. So, like you said, and I'm one that I like to take advantage of how easy, because again, one-man band stuff, I always try to find the most efficient way that I can work, you know, to get the shot that I want to get, and the nicest way too, you know. So yeah, it's just, that's the name of the game for me. So working with the budgets that I have, that's what I have to look forward to. But man, so yeah, moving stuff is very valuable to me, and spend the time to do that. All right, so back to our sets. What determines how much lights you use, or what lights you use? You know?
At the end of the day, it's what does the client want? Because there's so many styles. There's so many, you know, like I like the moody. I personally love the off shadow look, you know. But I've worked with clients, they don't want that. They want it flat. They want to see it, you know,
everything
lit. Everything lit.
No shadows.
No shadows. And I'm having to even match both sorts. So it's like two keys. And I'm like, oh gosh, you know, sometimes you just have to do certain things, you know. So I always put, here's why you hired me, right? Because this is what I bring to the table.
Sure.
At the end of the day, the client makes a decision. I mean, I can't force something on them. They refuse to accept.
Yeah.
When those things happen, then, you know, you conform. And at the end of the day, it's all about what's the style. What's the style guide? You know, I get you get style guides, you get go-bys, you get videos, you get stuff like this. The client, and I always try to push for that. By the way, always push for what is your look reference. Yes, give me reference, give me go-bys, and then we go according to that. So yeah. Just depends on what style. Then I just bring more lights. I try to have more than enough every time I come into a set. I would rather always have more than have less. I've been in a situation before I had to send someone out to go pick up some rental gear that we decided we needed for the shoot because we just didn't have enough. That is the worst, because that just throws things off. And that's only happened maybe once or twice in 8 years. But yeah, so I would say that'd be my response to that. It's just what does the client want?
Got it.
Now, if you're in full control and it's whatever you say goes,
Right.
then I go with my typical, like,
Sure.
I love how this is moody right here. This looks
Yeah.
great, but what are you conveying? What's the story?
Sure.
Because different lighting, you come a little bit higher, then
Yeah.
you get, you've got raccoon eyes, you've got that,
Yeah.
you've got all these different
We
emotions.
could tell scary stories.
Yeah, and so there's different ways to manipulate lights to give a story off,
Sure.
especially in narrative. But
For me, it's always all moody.
that's what you get. I'm moody.
That's what I like. I that's my own personal preference. But there have been some times where the client says it's a little dark. Can we make it a little bit brighter? So.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah, sure, ISO up.
Yeah. And then sometimes if the client's not there, I'm taking pictures of the shot and
Mm-hmm.
sending it to them, and oftentimes they like it. There have been times where I'm fully set up. The client shows up maybe 20 minutes before the interview and says, "This is good, but you know what? Let's try this corner better." Like, all right, cool. So we have to reset. It's not a bad suggestion from the client either. Sometimes, all right, yeah, this works. We'll make it work. Let's see how else I can make this work. If I have to throw light on that background, things like that. But I mean, that usually typically happens if they really want a say in it, but they get there 20 minutes before we have to start rolling, So then I don't have any time to really kind of dress it up if I needed it to.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate when that happens, where I just spent the last 35, 40 minutes making this interview setup real quick. And then he comes in, it's like, all right, let's change it to this angle. Let's come to this room or whatever. So I quickly have to reanalyze the room and sort of put the lights and stuff like that. So, but then let's say your camera's set up, your lighting is set up. This happens to me so often where, all right, I think we're good. I like this shot. Oh, audio. Oh my God.
Oh, are they laughed? Oh. Wait.
I need the boom. Where's the boom? So this happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I cannot emphasize enough on how important audio is on your interviews. So typically I like to give my clients 2 sources of audio when I possibly can. I like to give a boom option and I like to give a lavalier option. Mm-hmm. Personally, I always like the boom option better.
Yeah,
because I'll never get a rustle and it's never going to be muffled due to it being concealed inside the shirt. Mm-hmm. So it's always a clean sound.
For interviews, easy, but other things,
right?
It can be difficult.
It's tough. So I then set up the boom, and then I have to wait for the talent to show up to see what they're wearing.
Yes.
To then put the lavalier on.
I was on a Walmart shoot, and the wardrobe department had all these different choices. They narrowed it down to 3 outfits. Then they went from there down to 1. That's what's selected. And I had to learn this when doing audio. Get with the wardrobe department ahead of time and start looking at the fabric and how much noise the fabrics make. That's huge. So I was on one where it had to be this one particular. It was the Walmart blue. It was all this stuff. That thing made so much noise. There's no way around it.
Right.
It was like sandpaper.
Yeah.
And I learned from there on out, get with the wardrobe ahead of time. So that's one thing to think about too. If you're going to think about audio and doing everything yourself, get with whoever it is bringing clothes. Maybe you tell them, bring some options. Listen to what's best for sound and see if you can push that direction.
Sure. And at the end of the day, the more you do it, the more experience you have with the sounds of the actual clothing, right? One thing I have found, and it's funny, but hairy people their hair makes noise.
I just shave them without them knowing.
Just put wax on there.
Yeah.
This is the mic. Psycho. take the mic off. Sorry for the noise. One of our neighbors are now deciding to play drums.
This is just like production. The moment you hit action, plane, ducks, lawnmower.
Yeah. What are your methods for lavaliers?
So I do two ways. I do to the shirt, or I do tape to. So always go right in this cavity, the cleavage, right there. It's just the spot where, especially for females, it really helps because
there's a little bit of separation.
Yeah, it's great
from the shirt.
Always go there. So also another method too. It just depends on the scenario. I'll bring the cable from the back up by the neck, hidden, and come up to the front.
Okay.
There's so many, and then you could research so many different ways of doing
Yeah.
this stuff, and there's little adapters and little things you can do.
Yeah, audio, putting a lavalier on somebody effectively is an art.
It is, and it's uncomfortable for both parties.
Yeah.
And so I did it for like 4 years straight at the studio, and you try to break the ice, So my name's Mike, so I'll come up to them like, hey guy, hey, so how you doing, man? I'm Mike. I'm doing the mics. I'm Mike on the mic, all right. And then if it's a really pretty girl, which typically models and everything, I tell them, hey, just and this is the first one I did this with. Just I'm married, so we're all good, whatever. And then she's like, yeah, but are you happily married?
Oh my god.
So from there on, I was like, hey, just I'm Mike on the mic, I'll be micing you today, and I'm very happily married, okay? So I don't take any pleasure other than getting great audio. And I do things like this just to kind of just soften the tone and just try to get the comfort level. But yeah, just right in here helps to the shirt sometimes.
What I've been doing lately, and obviously this is when I don't have an audio guy, but what I do lately, I just let the woman mic herself up, right? So especially it depends on what they're wearing. I'll ask them, here, look, I have this set up for you. This is, and I use moleskin, right, from Walmart Walmart, CVS, Walgreens. You can get that anywhere. I'll cut up, and I tell them where this should be taped, right, and the direction it should be facing. And I trust them to place it, and I've never had an issue so far. If I hear rustling, obviously they're gonna have to redo it. But I personally, just my own, I don't tell anybody what to do on how they do their own audio stuff. But personally, I choose not to kind of avoid kind of placing it myself.
So let me say why though.
Sure.
When working with professional models and actors, that's actually what I was referring to.
Okay.
That's totally normal. But with like the stuff we've been doing with the actual clients and people who are actually like employees, I don't, to be honest, I don't go for it. I don't touch it. I give them like what you're saying, full instructions on how to do it right. But at the end of the day, we're responsible for how it sounds. So 100%. I try to just confirm, hey, do you have it like this? Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Even that, because I don't have experience working with a bunch of models or anything like that. Most of the time, it's people that work for the company or just somebody that they got to they need to interview. And that's sort of how I do it. Lately, I've been practicing a lot of the one that comes around the neck, right? And then I have no problem getting their shirt collar and sort of trying to stick it somewhere there, and that's worked out well. There's more effort that requires, but again,
I have hyperallergenic tape that I get from B&H.
Okay.
And then for that one, I definitely over the neck, I definitely tape it so it has a stress relief. I even do that when it's here in the chest. I do a stress relief on the side.
Got it.
So that the cable doesn't get yanked out at any point. That just kind of helps. I just saw the other day someone was telling me, just take the wire, the microphone right at the tip, like right before the tip, maybe like 3 inches off the actual lav, and just do like one of those knots where you just into each other. So it creates like a little safety right there, a little loop. Yeah. So I was like, hey, that's cool. I'm gonna try that on my next one and see how that works. Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's an art form, really.
That doesn't hurt the cable?
No, you don't tie it tight. It stays a big loop.
Oh, okay.
You're literally just like folding it within itself.
Got it.
But that's a good point because I would never want to kink a cable, especially not a mic cable. Yeah.
That's interesting. But yeah, that's super important to be able to practice that and make sure your audio is clean from both signals. There have been a couple times where halfway through the interview, either I start getting hits on the audio for whatever reason, there's interference on the lav, or the cable that my boom is connected to, the XLR. I don't know. Starts hearing some static, and sometimes that happens if the cable is running on top of like a power cable.
Yes,
and if it's not coded properly, if that's not this happens to cheaper cables. I'm starting to realize.
Yeah, it doesn't have the copper coating.
Right. Yeah. So the better the coating, the better you can avoid that. So I need to upgrade mine, but that could happen as well. So when that happens, sometimes I have another cable option, but what if that's not the issue? I just wasted this time swapping cables. And I assess it myself for my clients. Sometimes they don't even expect 2 sources of audio. It's what I like to provide. But then afterwards, I'll tell them, listen, we got 2 sources of audio. However, there's a part where the boom started acting up a little bit, but the lavalier was super clean, so that's easily usable, or vice versa. You know, we had a few hits, but the boom was extraordinarily clean. So, and that's honestly, as a backup, that's a good practice to have. Always to have something. You don't want to put all your eggs in one source.
Yes.
But it's, you know, ideally, they should both be perfect, right? But this is where you get an audio guy to take care of that stuff. As a freelancer, this is one of the things where you go above and beyond, right? Sometimes they don't ask for two. Sometimes they just need audio, whatever it is. I like to offer two, but
Same here.
You know, if for whatever reason something happens, hey, you got to either upgrade your cable, upgrade your labs, find that interference, whatever it is you got to do to fix it, you know.
And you have another great option with the tentacle sync.
Tentacle sync also. Oh, so great. Good call there. So I have the Track Ease, right?
Ease.
So the Tentacle Sync Track Ease is essentially a recorder that you could just put on your talent and it just records. There is no wireless communication happening there. It does have time code, and that's kind of how that uses it. But to be honest, I don't use it in that capacity. The way I use the Track Ease is as a backup if all else fails.
Like the final thing.
If nothing is working, I cannot boom this person because they're too far, or there's too much space, and the lavaliers is having connection issues. And I've had this issue before. I just say, you know what? We're running out of time. Put a tracking on them, hit record.
And it's 32-bit float.
And it's 32-bit float, so you don't have to worry about.
So the only
clipping.
Worry is if it's
rustling.
Yeah,
so that's the
only
part.
because you can't monitor it, right?
I cannot monitor
it's a
it.
backup of the backup.
So I had an issue where I had to go to my backup plan, which is the Track Ease. We had to do that, but the mistake that I made was we tried to hide it. At that point, I would recommend just leave it exposed, because there you don't have to worry about Russell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We don't like Mr. Russell.
Russell sucks.
We hate Russell on sets.
I tried to hide it on somebody that was running. It was a running scene. And we're trying to hide the mic.
Yeah, no.
And not being able to monitor it.
Can't trust it.
Biggest mistake ever.
Really?
Biggest mistake ever.
In
and
post?
we found out in post. And we're editing this.
Oof. What do you do with that?
So here's the thing. We have to use it. We have to. But you're hearing the hits. It's a female running. It's not a male. It's a female. Biggest mistake. Guys, learn from this mistake. If you have to go back to a recorder only and whatnot, you cannot monitor it. Expose the mic. Do not try to hide it if you cannot monitor it.
It's not worth it.
So anyways, long story short, we're going to have to use it. And I'm praying, anybody listening to this, if you're an expert in audio editing and post, if we could try to remove some of those hits, like all it is, it's a constant, you could hear the steps, you know, she's bouncing up and down. We can hear the mic hitting every single time she runs, every step she makes. I don't know if there's even a possible way to remove that, you know?
Yeah, there's guys that could do it.
I think there is.
DM Ariel, if you're that guy.
Yeah, if you guys have experience, or if you know somebody that's really good at that, let me know, because we're actually looking to fix it. We don't have a locked picture, which is why I haven't put it out there yet. But once we have a locked picture, I don't want to have somebody editing was like a 35-minute run interview.
It's not going to be used.
Exactly. So we want to have a locked picture. Once we know exactly the parts that we want to use, I want to put it out there, seeing who can remove this, who can fix this audio.
Yeah, I had a coach doing a demonstration with a model another coach who's doing the actual fitness workout.
Yeah.
And this person's got like a shirt with another shirt and then like a sweater on top of that, right? This coach. Now, everything was good until I realized how much he's going to be moving. And he's all over the place.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's stretching. He's bending down. He's practically doing push-ups. He's doing sit-ups, all these different things.
Yeah.
So I had it with the mole, right? I had it with the tape to the chest. And then I even had the cap that came with it.
Yeah.
You know, you put the cap right on top.
Yeah.
It helped so much. But it still wasn't enough. So then I got the furry. I put the furry on top of it. Now, because he had a heavy sweater, you know how sometimes the furries, they bulge.
Yeah.
So you can't use them, right? To be hidden.
This time it was
perfect because it was a sweater, and that saved me. It was
wow.
So then I had another shoot with the same guy where I didn't have it available, and I would get hits every once in a while.
Oh,
They were
man.
manageable, but I'm like, wow, let me find that stupid, raccoon tail.
The
The
little
furries.
thi-
I
the
don't
thing
even know
you
what they're
never
called.
use,
Yeah.
but it's useful for that way.
So after that shoot, I went on Amazon and I just bought a pack of 6 because I was like, just in case.
I never used that technique. I'm interested to see if it works.
I know some audios guys will be like, hey, that's just too many layers. The quality was still amazing. So that's what I was worried about. The quality, still amazing. And it got rid of the noise.
You know what I find funny? Audio guys, well, field recorders, field audio techs, they know how to lav up and whatnot, but they never handle audio in post ever. I found that to be the case. So how do they know what...
That's interesting.
At the end, what is the good audio supposed to sound like? Because what we shoot on camera is not the final product, because we color this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And we deal with before and after.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of them you find out they don't actually do much of
They
the
don't
after.
do much.
Yeah.
That's what I have. Look, I'm not well versed in the industry of each individual, like audio techs, gaffers. Like, I don't know their jobs 100%.
Yeah, all the audio techs are writing right now. What? That's BS. What? What?
Yeah.
I do.
But just about most of the audio guys that I've worked with, at least, they tell me they don't do post.
Yeah.
So
I asked one of the guys, and he charges pretty good, and I know he's really good. And he said that he's had enough experience, like talking with the editors, to find out that everything was fine. And he's had that happen so many times that he now knows his gauge of what he considers good and bad it works. And that's how he gauged it. Not that he edited it, but he would get feedback.
But the problem is the feedback is coming from one objectively skilled person.
It's true.
What if the next person that's handling this doesn't know how to handle that, right?
It's just so interesting because
I think
film
it goes back
and then we color.
Right.
And we see the after. We deal with the whole process.
Right. And that's where I think, and you hear this all the time, the best directors are the ones that know how to edit. They know how to light. They know how to audio. They know the whole process, right? And again, Hollywood aside, we're talking about video production businesses, right? The people that know what it takes. The people that know that if they say we can fix it in post, they can fix it in post.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm on one of my sets and I say, let's fix it in post, I know because I've been there and I've done that before, I hardly ever say that, by the way.
But you know the range.
I know,
how far
the
go.
range of what you can work with and what you can't.
You always ask, one of the things you always ask is there going to be music on this?
Right.
That's one of the first things you ask.
Right. Yeah. And so that I always found that interesting that they don't do post production,
observation. Yeah.
And I wonder why. Is it because they lose? I mean, if they're working so much that they just can't, it's not something that they're looking to do.
Well, how often do you send your audio off to an engineer to work on, so that maybe the opportunity is just not
maybe
as
I know a lot of my friends do. They send off their audio to be worked on by an actual audio specialist.
I've had to do it twice. That was it.
I'm sorry?
I've only had to do it twice.
Really?
Send it off to audio
I
engineer.
don't think I've ever done that. I want to do it. My guy Julian Jari has actually pushed me to do that because he said once he started doing that, his stuff has been coming out amazing.
That's great.
So you pay, what is it, $400 or $500 for an audio guy to work on your audio on certain projects, and it comes out solid.
Yeah,
it comes out like mastered, everything perfect.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't really do much work on my audio when on my own projects that I do for my clients. But maybe it's something I would look into.
I have a whole thing that I do with Adobe Audition.
Yeah,
and I love it. For me, it's been working great. Yeah, I get a lot out of it.
So speaking of audio, that is actually something when walking into a room we need to listen for.
That's a very good point. Another thing that's an oversight. Yeah,
it's a big oversight because we look at lighting. We mentioned lighting a lot earlier. We mentioned composition and camera placement and directions and practicals and all that stuff, but the sound of the room is extraordinarily important, So as I mentioned, sometimes the shot is better in one room, but there's more depth in another. Sometimes it's better in one room, but there's better sound in another. What would you prefer? A better shot or better sound?
Better shot. I'm also I'm also very biased. Like, you ever notice someone who's like only like camera department? You
Yeah.
go to their house, they'll have a big TV, horrible sound system. You go to audio guy, they'll have a tiniest little TV and an amazing sound system. It's like,
Yeah.
it's what you prefer. So
That's funny.
because I feel like I can manipulate audio a little bit more than what I'm stuck with working with on visually. So like I can put sound blankets down, which
Okay.
I do that. I put sound blankets down if it's an interview and you don't see the floor, at least in the front where the voices are
I like
hitting.
that.
I put it on the side if I can control it and doesn't mess up my lighting.
Right,
you know?
right.
So I feel like, but the video, there's only so much you can do, and I feel like it's just such a priority. Sometimes people will see before they even hear anything, depending on where it's going, where it's landing. But yeah, I feel like I can manipulate with sound blankets and do.
I think I agree. And even though I have always said you can forgive bad video with good audio, but you cannot forgive bad audio with good video on the final product, right? So that's
good.
I've always said that.
So good.
Now, here's the thing. When it comes to you on set, fully experienced, you know what to expect. You know that the audio is better in the other room, but this shot looks way better, right? So according to what I said, somebody might take that and say, let's just go with the better audio. However, if you, like you just said, if you know how to treat the room to make it sound better with better mic placement, and maybe you can send it off to somebody that can really work on that audio, it might be worth it to get that better shot, you know?
But if I get stuck in a room with an AC unit, it passes the threshold of where I'm comfortable with.
Sure.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'd rather just have something else that doesn't look as pretty.
Yep.
So, there's variables to it. Yeah.
Yeah. How much are you willing to risk the audio for that shot, you know? So that's the thing there.
To be honest, I'm not willing to risk it. If the audio is going to be that bad, I'm not willing to risk it, because it without good audio, it's junk. To be honest, you can't use it.
I saw, this was years ago. I took the Reducation course when I was working a lot with the Red Dragon when it was more prominent. I took the course, and I've networked. I met a lot of Red owners and whatnot, cool people, all that stuff, and we stayed in contact. And one of the guys there after that, they released it. Like I've been seeing them on social media posting a lot about this film that they're working on, a passion project. They're loving it, and he shoots on Red. He's a Red owner, so he finally released it and set it up, put it in a local theater for release so that people can see it and go watch it. And I didn't go to that theater, but then I saw it when he released it online and whatnot. So I took a look at it, and oh man, I was embarrassed for him, put it that way. It was, I don't know how to say it. I could not believe that this was shot on a Red. It's like, so they shot it knowing the capabilities that you can change things in post, like white balance and stuff. A lot of the interviews, I could see the quality of the Red, but it's like you didn't do any kind of color correction, no color grading. I see this red cast on this one interview, then a blue cast on the other. The white balance was off everywhere. But to make matters worse, I can tell that you're in the most echoiest room ever, and it sounds like you're using an on-camera microphone.
Oh my god, like scratch audio.
Holy cow.
Jeez. I wonder if it was one of those things where like the audio got deleted, so all they have is
holy
what's
cow.
on camera.
I couldn't. I couldn't believe it. And so I told him, I didn't break it down like this, but I did tell him like my thoughts because he asked me, and respectfully I told him everything. He's like, yeah, I got to work on that. I got to get better on that. But I guess I was under the impression that he knew what he was doing. He's a Red owner, right?
Yeah, you just think Red owner. You think
exactly. He took the Reducation course, which ain't cheap, by the way.
Wow.
I think it's like $1,500 to take that course, and it's a 2-day course, 2 to 3 day course. But man, I was like so disappointed. You know,
it's funny though because there's different perspectives on this. Like you can take a consumer camera, and if you know lighting and good audio, you can make that look phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's the skill. It's not just the gear you own. It's the skill you have.
Yeah, it's not about the camera. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But again, let's say, all right, put it this way. Even if it was a nice shot, good image, well balanced, white balance, whatever, that audio alone was so bad that the entire thing
You
was
can't focus on it. Right? The thing about great audio is it's truly great when you're not having to pay attention to it. That's when it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It doesn't favor the people who put all this time in it, because it's when you don't notice it is that it's phenomenal.
Same thing for lighting. You can notice a beautiful picture, but if your goal is to get a natural looking picture where you don't see the harsh shadows coming on one direction or the other, or maybe you do, but it looks normal as if it's lights from the ceiling, you know, but it's more
like
directional.
we were just shooting on a golf course, and we had the sun coming from one direction, but then we had this HMI light, and with the diffusion that was put in front of it, it was a hamster frost, and it was too contrasting. We caught it, and we're like, that just doesn't look like it would be natural.
I can clearly see that there's a light hitting.
So then we put a 216 on there, and boom, it just looked perfect.
Yep. Yeah, that all works. And or sometimes the harsh lights where you have the perfect spot is where there's one light on the ceiling that's hitting down and it's way too harsh, and you have your lighting set up, but I could still see slight raccoon eyes coming in there, and then the shadow from that light. And sometimes we oversee that stuff. And then if you take the time to get a flag to cover that light or gaff that light or whatever you can do to stop that light from coming down and hitting, touching your subject, you know.
We were shooting at Orange Theory Fitness. You ever been in one of their gyms?
Yeah.
It's a premium membership gym. It's phenomenal. But it's all orange in there.
Yeah.
Right? And we were doing a shoot for them.
It's the worst place to shoot.
And they, they like it. They run with the concept. But for this particular place, with their guidance, they didn't want it to be so we wanted to control it. So we would just we found ourselves putting trash bags, layered trash bags on the I don't know, it was like 6
because
different
all
ones.
their ceiling lights are orange,
and they're like about that big right there. So what is that, like about what is that, about 3 feet wide all the way around. And so we had to get trash bags and get ladders and cover them up, and you gotta do what you gotta do.
You can't turn off the house lights?
Not there. No, it was the strip that we were on. They couldn't do it. So we had to garbage bag them.
They can't turn off the house
I'm not
lights.
saying they can't. This is at headquarters. So maybe because it's headquarters, it's not like a functioning real gym. It's their model gym where they test everything out.
It's weird.
But I don't want to talk negative about them, but it's
no, they suck.
No,
just kidding.
It's fine.
We'll cut that part out.
No, but so sometimes you'll be in situations where you just got to find a way. So normally what we would do is we would get a C-stand on an arm and a flag, a black flag, solid flag, and just put it right up against the light. If it's not in the shot, that helps.
There was a big shoot that I did where we had to flag the gaffer had to flag so many ceiling lights that he ran out of them, and there was still this one that was hitting our subject. So he got, I don't know what they call it. I know it's an apple box, but it's a very thin one. So he picked one of those up, put it on.
The pancake is the thinnest. There's pancake, quarter,
it's like
half.
this right here.
So that's a half. Oh, that's a quarter.
Okay, so he got that, and he put it on that clamp, the Cardellini clamp. And then he put that up and used it to block the lights.
I mean,
it worked.
It's a little heavy, but
worked. You know, they got a C-stand, put sandbags everywhere.
Nice. Well,
but
that's a little scary though, because if that falls, man.
And that was right over.
I do not recommend that one, but it worked.
It worked. I don't think it was right over our subject.
Doesn't matter.
But it was up pretty high.
Yeah, I just wouldn't recommend it. So what you do with that is you just get a foam core. If you have foam core or anything that's like a poster board, anything like that, that would help. That would be better than a quarter.
I mean, they had ran out of all their flags because we had flagged so many lights already.
You got to do what you got to do.
It was a beautiful restaurant, Capitol Grill. If you're in Miami, delicious place.
Is that where we're going today? Right now?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
McDonald's.
This guy.
But anyways, this is great, man. This is great. I learned a lot from your stories.
I learned a lot from yours, man. This is a match made in heaven. Look right here. Just come on, right there. Okay.
All right. Well, anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode of the iFilmmaker podcast. If you want to follow either one of us, we're putting links to our Instagram down below, on Facebook, our website, ifilmmakerpodcast.com. You can find all that stuff.
Is it going to be on MySpace?
It's on MySpace. I have to ask Tom if he's going to allow us to.
Is Tom still alive?
I think he is.
Interesting.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.